sometimes making peanut butter soup or Ghanaian groundnut soup can be a big challenge depending on which part of the world you find yourself in. Finding raw groundnut paste or peanut butter can sometimes be very hard, but this recipe hopefully is going to help you in that regard. Come along and let's do some cooking. So here are my ingredients. I showed you some tomato paste. I have some pig feet that is salted. I made this at home. I have some tuna fish. I have some smoked fish and some homemade smoked mackerel. I also have some oxtail with the skin on, which I have parboiled with the stock that I boiled it with still in it. That's going to go in the soup as well. I have some tomatoes and pepper, and I have my onion and ginger, and of course our very prime ingredient here, which is store-bought roasted peanuts. So this is dry roasted peanuts, unsalted, because I just want to use the unsalted. It's easier for me to know how much salt I'm going to have in my soup. And normally I will actually just roast my peanuts myself, but I know a lot of people still question where you can find raw peanuts. So this is something anybody can find on any part of the world. Roasted peanuts is everywhere. So just pour that into your blender. Blend until you get your paste, or your butter consistency. I am actually going to use everything I'm blending, so I'm not really going to try to get it to be like real peanut butter, creamy peanut butter consistency, because it's just so little in my blender anyway. It is going to be hard. So I'm going to add water to this at this point. After all, if you have groundnut paste or your peanut butter, you are still going to mix it with water. So I'm going to add water, and that is going to help blend it even better and smoother. This process requires a powerful blender though, because you need that to make it smooth enough for you to be able to make soup with it. Otherwise, you probably will need to strain it at this point before you continue the process. But this is fine, so I'm pouring it into a pot. This is a small pot that I'm going to just cook this on the side first before I actually transfer it to my other ingredients. I have my oxtail, my tuna fish, and my pig feet here in my bowl. I've blended my onion and ginger, added that in here. I'm going to cover. I only added a little salt because the tuna fish has some salt, as well as my pig feet. I'll bring that to a boil, but first I'm going to stir my groundnut for the very first time. This is a process where you have to pay a lot of attention to your groundnuts. Otherwise, it's going to burn on the bottom and just stick, and you're going to lose a lot of your ingredient. So my meat is on fire now, and like I said, I'm going to come in every now and then to stir my groundnut mixture until it starts thickening up, and hopefully begin to get to a point where it will have a little bit of oil on the surface, and then I'll pour it into my pot of meat. So one thing about this is it's allowing you to cook this on the side. It is going to speed up the cooking process of your soup, because your meat is cooking, and whilst you were waiting for your meat to start cooking and steaming, you were just going to be waiting to pour your groundnut in. But with this process, your groundnut is already also cooked, so they come midway and your soup is faster. It gives you a beautiful color. So once it starts bubbling and just starts splashing up, I covered it because I don't want it to splatter everywhere, for one, and covering it also helps to work out the oils in your peanuts. I'm going to let this cook on low heat for a total of about 30 minutes, constantly coming in to stir it because you don't want it to burn. Checking on my meats now, they're doing great. I'm adding my tomatoes and my pepper. I'm going to cover and let this continue to cook. This has already cooked for about 20 minutes at this point, and my peanut butter has about reached its 30-minute mark. It has thickened, as you can see, gone all the way down. I don't have any oils on it now. Typically you should see some oil, but it's in there and it's going to come. I just see a little bit on the sides, and I think it's good now. I'm about burning this, so I'm not going to let it cook any longer. I'm just going to go ahead and pour it into my bigger pot, which has my meats and my tomatoes and pepper, and continue my soup at this point in one pot and cook it down. I'm going to rinse my pot and add the water in here. Of course, you're making soup, you want to dilute this. It was all that thick peanut butter. You could alternatively just mix it with water before you pour it in here, but it still ends up being the same. So I'm scraping the sides of my pot first because I have a lot of the peanut butter still sticking to the sides and bottom, and then I'm going to pour it in here. There we go. Now that is in here, my tomatoes had already been in here for about 5 minutes before I added the peanuts. I don't want to overcook it in here, especially since I'm cooking it on top of the meat. I don't want it to just fall apart and be a mess here in my soup. So I'm going to actually bring them out now and then get them ready for blending. I'm also going to add my tomato paste, then blend. I've allowed my peanuts to cook with my meat for about 15 minutes. Now I'm going to pour in my blended tomatoes and pepper, rinse out my blender, add that in here and allow this to cook down. Now that I have my tomatoes and pepper in, I'm also going to wash my smoked fish and add it in here, as well as my mackerel to my soup.
Delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious, da da. Delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious, da da da. Delicious, delicious, da da.
Once I add my fish, I'm going to let this cook down for about 25 minutes on medium heat. You want your soup to thicken up. It is very light at this point, and that smoked fish that I added is very dry. You know, they make it bone dry. And going in a little early is going to help it to just sit in here, absorb a lot of moisture from your soup, and it has so much flavor that it's going to bring to this. You don't necessarily need this combination of ingredients. It tastes good though, but of course you can make groundnut soup with whatever meat you want. I just really made this video so you know that you don't need to use sweetened peanut butter, which is supposed to be a spread, to make your soup. About 25 minutes later, look, my soup has thickened. I have some oil coming to the surface, which really is just indicative that your soup is cooked all the way through. You don't necessarily need a lot of oil, especially based off the ingredients I used. I don't have a lot of meats here that have a lot of fat in it. My soup is done. I'm going to just turn off my stove, and at this time my fufu is also ready. Just look at this very simple soup. It smells amazing. The taste is just out of this world good. But this was so good with fufu. The next day we had some rice balls, and I used the rest to just eat rice and soup, you know, just like the bossy girl that I am. And look at this tuna fish. That was the highlight for me. Well, I hope you are able to try this. I know you are going to love this. Thanks so much for watching. Kindly give me a thumb up and share. And until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy.